This is IBM Museum. I'm back in front of the PS2 Model 85 K/N, the one with the non-functional SCSI subsystem that is on the system board. And I've gone through and reduced to a more basic configuration. Actually went through and swapped the RAM memory between this system and my functional K/N. So this now has 64 megabyte of RAM that's behind this power supply. We've got, instead of the XVGA2, I just have an SVGA/A adapter installed for basic video. I've pulled the cache module, and we have a 46DX33 CPU, what the system is actually badged as. I do have the drive that I'm trying to set up that has been on the system. We've got it jumpered correctly for SCSI ID 6. I have that single device cable coming down from the SCSI adapter and connected up to that drive internally. There may be a portion that I show the interlock system for when the covers are removed. I know the diagnostic program does prompt for some steps to have the cover closed, and it tells you you have to have a key. I'll show an easy way to bypass that step that the system goes through. I'm going to get switched over. I've already got the the reference diskette started. And whenever you run diagnostics on the system, it always has to start from the reference diskette, and then it will prompt you when you go into the testing the computer. It'll prompt you for that diagnostic diskette, which is a separate one. I'll provide a link to where that is in the video description. So let me get switched over to where I've got the video capture up on the screen here. Okay, and I've got the keyboard in hand now. This is the error that appears now that I've had the system configured. I've got the date time set correctly. I've run through an automatic configuration, but it gives me a system board SCSI error. This is with the reference diskette in the drive, and it's telling me to continue to test the computer to determine the cause of this error and what action to take. And Ivan, as part of the diagnosis of this system, I even went through and I pulled that real-time clock and configuration battery from the system planar, had it out of the system, so everything reset on the system, and I went through that system configuration with those more basic components, reducing the system back to a very basic configuration to try and diagnose what this error is exactly. Okay, so we will go down to test the computer, and it tells us remove the reference diskette. And even though these are all green, I do have them labeled. Okay, there's the diagnostic diskette. Okay, and it's showing us the list of devices. That looks to be entirely correct. So we're going to do Y for yes, and it's going to go through and test the system board. Okay, and this is the particular message. I apologize for it being a little bit off the screen. For privileged access features to run in closed system mode, the system unit cover must be closed and you must have a key to the system unit. Do you want to run this test? And I'm going to specify yes. I'll go through and let me pause the video to get it set up back on the screen again to show you the interlock of how I'm going to get past having the key to the system and having the system cover on. Okay, I'll undoubtedly zoom in on the key components here in just a moment, but this is the system unit. I do have the side cover off, of course. I've got that down here. And then I've got the front cover pulled off. And you, of course, have to remove this from the front to get the side cover off. And of note, the front cover has this longer pin, so you can actually have the front cover on without the side cover being present on the system. And that works with this interlock system down here. Let me get zoomed in on that section. Okay, and after the memory test completed, it's prompting us for a particular message, and it's talking about. I wish I could see this a little bit more in fuller screen to see what it's asking, but it's with the use of the parity memory, and there are bit errors that can slip through on those. Parity is checking is not the end all to if you're having memory problems. And the 256 megabyte of RAM that I have in the other system is what's called EOS SIM or ECC SIM that has a better error correction method than the parity. I think what the question's asking me, if I choose yes here, it actually does a little bit more it uses the parity detection a little bit more appropriately on the system. And so that's what I've done is I've selected that yes. And I'm not knowing, of course, my keyboard. I'm not knowing if we necessarily need to go through. I just wanted to really diagnose the SCSI subsystem. And I don't want to get caught up in having to necessarily have the all the keys on this function correctly. And we're going to press F1 and then press enter. Okay, testing completed for keyboard. Parallel port. System board, parallel port, diskette drives. And I'm not wanting to do to test the diskette drive. The diskette drive is functioning correctly. And I think I can do and they're saying Control C to bypass that. I don't know if I have what necessarily is identified as a scratch diskette. Okay. Let's see. Maybe this will be enough of a scratch diskette for it. Okay, reference diskette into the drive. All my green diskettes. Could not be verified. That's fine. F8 for forward. Okay. And we're sure that the diskette drive functions correctly enough. It's going to go through and test. Okay. SCSI on the system board. That's what we mainly want to check. Reset test is running. And we still do have the reference diskette in the drive, not the diagnostic diskette. And I don't know if this has any watchdog timeout if the system stops responding during this, or how long this is going to take. I'll wait it out with the video running for a couple minutes here. And it'd be nice if it gave us some sort of progress, how it's going through there, or an indication that the system is working at some level. Because just a reset test, I would think, would be quicker than this. So I'm going to pause the video just to wait this out a little bit further. Wait for several minutes just to see if it's going to go through and if the system's going to do anything. And I'll be right back. Okay, so even after several minutes of waiting, that's all that we have is the SCSI controller reset test is running. So I'm going to see if I can break into that somehow, or if the system is just maybe just frozen solid. Okay, and finally got a beep there. And that's typically when the keyboard buffer has filled up entirely, that it beeps that no other key presses are accepted. And I did Control C, Control Break. Okay, and the keyboard buffer being full again. So it just looks like the system is seized once it gets to this point to try and reset the SCSI subsystem. And I suppose I could go through and not have a hard drive plugged in. I've just done Control Delete. Let's go through and I'm going to unplug the drive. We can have it to where it doesn't do power either to the drive. And it had the reference diskette in there previously. Okay. Okay, and that's where I started the video. I got to the point where it had an error with the system board SCSI. Okay. So we can go through and I'm looping around, of course, in this sequence. And I was even thinking that what may be the particular error is that the system cover it's not on tight, and that top interlock is, and I may have a way with my tool and we'll just try and run through the SCSI test the test in the controller without having any okay. Okay, so we're going to do yes once again. Okay, system unit cover is closed and the system unit is locked, and then press enter. So I'm going to see if I can trick the system a little bit better here. I don't know a way that both or whether we would be better to have that there and the pin. Let's see if that'll do enough to where it so I don't know, I've got that and there's just no other interlocks. Okay. Well, that would press. I think it's a little bit beyond the point for the purpose of the video. I guess that would press that down. Yeah, and I mean, I have the switch positions and what I think they should be. I guess let's just continue on to the point. I'm not wanting to do a full memory diagnostic, and I'll go through and pause the video for you guys once again in this process. Okay, and we're to the keyboard test again. And I think all the keys have to be pressed. I don't even know, some keys put it in the like the caps lock or the num lock. F1 enter. Okay, we'll go through all the parallel port, async. Okay. Okay, the so-called scratch diskette again. And it's just a shame that you can't you can't pick what tests you want to run. Okay. And it tells us to put the reference diskette in. And that's assumably because it has all the diagnostic programs loaded in memory. Could not be verified. And I don't know if that's just because because that scratch diskette is maybe in such bad shape or... Okay, So we're back with no drives connected at all. Just a SCSI controller floating free. Nothing connected to it at all. And I think that this is going to have the same end result. It just sits there, and that reset test, and it gave us the message before. Control C is the way to terminate the test, and that has no effect after this is started. I don't see the activity LED for the SCSI subsystem being on. Okay. I've just done a Control-Delete sequence again. We have the reference diskette in the drive. And I may have to go through and do that on my working K/N just to see if that has, what time frame that takes to run that test. See how quickly it runs that test. Okay. Okay, in the same warning, we're back to this point of it saying for it to test the computer. I'm going to do a start operating system. And I'm going to try with another green diskette that I have all the flash images on. And I've tried that previously, but I just want to see booting from that. From this diskette on whether we can flash that SCSI controller or... And this had to be operational at some point, and I don't know if maybe it was a process of trying to flash it that made it so it wasn't, didn't work properly or something. And no hard drive connected to the SCSI subsystem at all. Okay, F1 to start the operating system. And this has that auto exec bat that goes through to version okay. And again, that download error So and I would think that this would work on the K/N. I mean, normally it's designed for the Corvette adapter, the fast wide SCSI adapter that IBM made called the Corvette. But it's identifying adapter 0, just like maybe that's identification that the SCSI subsystem is on the system board. Okay. And we get caught in the sequence again of the reference diskette and then and I don't want to, this is just over a half-hour recording time. And it's the process of going through and trying to diagnose this SCSI subsystem, if I can. Okay. And there's something messed up this SCSI subsystem, something fierce on the system. And I don't know if that there's no BIOS update for these systems. I don't know if that BIOS update goes through and works with the SCSI controller separately to update any firmware or not. And the board looks good. I may have to go through and look at capacitors and other components just to make sure that there's nothing that's damaged or okay. And that's quite a distinct error. I may have to go through once I have the video up to to suss out what particular error. And we're just going to do a control break. And let's see what QSpock will. And there's not any way to pause this. In fact, we're going to go through. I wondered if it would be. Well, we'll see if it completes first. I'd like to pipe the output to a text file just to see. Okay. Okay. 0 IBM SCSI adapters found. So that SCSI subsystem is just in such a condition that it just doesn't respond at all. And I doubt if and it's the same with the -L switch. We saw before that SCSI level, the POS command failed. So it just looks like this SCSI subsystem is not functional. I'll have to examine the board a little bit more in detail. And so this sequence is a bust. It's just going through, I'm looping around, I'm trying to discover what's going on with this. An easy way to patch the system in them. I've reduced a basic configuration, don't have anything connected to that SCSI subsystem, and went through, had a pulled battery to reconfigure the system from scratch, and it's still acting up. So that's just a good place as any to end the video. But if you enjoy this content, click on that like button, and by all means subscribe to my channel if you have not already. But that is all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.